Hi dear students, welcome to La Excellence IS Academy. So today let's discuss the articles of 5th September 2020. So the first article is Parliament stifled, business and a word of advice. See, whenever you come across the editorial article, whenever you read a heading, you will not be able to understand what exactly is this editorial is trying to communicate. So always, while reading the editorials, try to focus on this subheading part. So this subheading will help you to understand what is this editorial is completely trying to tell you, and also it will help you to identify whether this particular editorial has to be read or not. Moving further, we are all well aware in India that we have adapted a parliamentary form of government. So, wherein the executive is held responsible to the legislature, and legislature is ultimately held responsible to the people. As you all are well aware, through the process of election, the legislatures are made accountable to the people. Now, through the process of parliamentary devices and through the process of budget and financial controls, executive will be made responsible to the legislature. This is how the accountability architecture has been set up in our constitution. So moving further, we are all well aware in India we have three different organs which is functioning. So what are the three different organs? It is executive, legislature and the judiciary. The responsibility of the legislature is to make debates and discussions, to pass the policies, to pass the legislations, along with that, to control or scrutiny the activity that is done by the executive. See, you can see in this article how they've tried to highlight the function of the legislature. Then, moving further, the function of the executive is to implement the broader policies that has been decided by the legislature. So the government of the day, that is executive, has the responsibility to implement the government decision and to perform various public tasks. Then finally, we have a judiciary system which ensures anything that is done by the legislature or the executive is within the constitutional mandate. So they will ensure the boundaries of constitution will never be trespassed by any of them. So the constitution is clearly spelled out there should be a harmonious balance between the powers between the legislative, executive and judiciary. But very lately what has happened? Because of the COVID-19 crisis, the legislature is unable to meet. As you can see over here, from the last 175 days, the legislature or the parliament has not assembled. And it is one of the longest gap without which that the parliament meeting has not happened. In such a scenario, the executive has become unparalleled. They've launched so many programs, schemes, they've passed acts with respect to the migrants, laborers. So they have almost passed around 11 ordinances that you can see over here. So some are related to the COVID-19 crisis and the lockdown, some ordinances are related to the Reserve Bank of India and cooperative banks, and some are with respect to the agriculture market reforms. Since parliament is not assembled or legislature is not oversighting over them, so then because of this lack of parliamentary oversight, judiciary has intervened in this policy decision. So as you are all well aware, policy making or policy decision is a domain of legislature. So now judiciary has intervened here. It may be with respect to lockdown or in case of the migrant issues. So once a beautiful example you can see over here is with respect to the migrants issue. So when the migrant issue has been taken up by the Supreme Court, then in such a case it is giving a judgment wherein there will be many implementation challenges, where there will be many ground situations which has to be discussed and debated, and the many policy decisions has to be taken considering the ground situations in mind. As judiciary stepped in, the autonomy or the flexibility what implementers had at the ground level has been taken away. So then other second example that we can give in the situation is with respect to these telecom companies. So the telecom companies, government had given them a particular time duration for the payment, whereas Supreme Court has overruled that judgment. Probably a parliament having consideration for all the stakeholders like banks, telecom companies and the consumers could have arrived at a policy which will be a win-win situation for all the stakeholders. So this is where we are trying to say, for ensuring a fine balance, it is the legislature which has to take care of the decision making or the policy making. Moving further, now what are we expecting from the upcoming session, or what is the expectation from the legislature with respect to the policy making? So we'll try to understand over here. So now, as we are all well aware, the session is going to be a short session that's only for the 18 days period. So in this 18 days period, we are expecting the government to scrutinize all the activities done by the executive with respect to the COVID-19 financial implications and all the ordinances that is being passed by them. So at least look after those ordinances which has a long-term implications, like the one on banking and the farming communities. Then moving further, since 0 hour and the questionnaire has been truncated, so they shall try to use other opportunities or other ways of controlling the executive. They shall also discuss about the India-China border issue and also the way of reviving our economy, creating of the jobs, ensuring stability of the banking system and the government finances. They may also have to take a relook with respect to the supplementary budget or pass a new budget altogether, considering the current conditions. So moving further, one best example that we can take about the functioning of the parliament is the Britain Parliament. So we can see over here, Britain Parliament with respect to the contact tracing app. So we are all well aware, India we have Arogya Setu app, a similar kind of app that was supposed to be launched in the Britain. So when that app was supposed to be launched, the Britain Parliament had a special session. They met and the Joint Parliamentary Committee of Britain on Human Rights have given a detailed report with respect to the app and its usage. So you can clearly see over here, the app should be backed by a specific legislation as the first condition what they are trying to mention. Then they are telling that whatever is the data that is being collected should only for a limited purpose. The data collection purpose is clearly mentioned over here. Third thing, they have prohibited sharing of data with any third parties or uploading it in the centralized database. And the fourth point, what is the time duration that particular data should be maintained? So that is also clearly spelled out. And last but not the least, the minister every 21 days they have to give updates with respect to the efficacy and security and privacy of this app. One particular app, there has been a detailed scrutiny and detailed guidelines for that particular app. But in India, we have passed Arogya Setu app with an executive mandate. There is no discussions about it and there is no clear-cut structure or the guidelines for utilization of the data and the security. So this is what we are expecting from Indian government and the current legislature, that when they sit up for the monsoon session, they shall discuss about all the issues and scrutinize in a detailed manner. And they shall also utilize the parliamentary committees for effective scrutinization of the executive. In India, the parliamentary committees are not meeting, stating the reasons of travel issues and the COVID-19 crisis. Even though the health of the legislatures and the staff working is very important, at the same time, the central role in the democracy is of legislators. So they need to ensure that amidst of any crisis, the fine balance as mentioned in our constitution will be maintained and there shall be a scrutiny and accountability to the people at the end. So we can see over here, any new law or expenditure that is being proposed should have a detailed scrutiny, and parliamentaries should never forget their duty towards the Indian citizen with respect to scrutinizing the government and guiding the policy making, thereby ensuring democracy not only in the letter but in true spirit. Let's move on to the next article, a new dimension. See, I have already told you, when you read a heading, you don't get understand what exactly is the article or editorial is trying to tell. So when you read a subheading, you will able to understand the insight or the what are the highlights of the particular article. So militarization of the Quad will not elevate the territorial threat India faces from the China. See, why are we discussing this thing? It's because yesterday we saw an article wherein General Rawat, the Chief of Defence Staff, has said the Quad could be a new solution to ensure freedom of navigation in the Indian Ocean region. So in this context, this editorial has come into the picture. So now, what are we trying to tell? Even though we are emphasizing on militarization of the Quad, this will not help us. It may help us in the freedom of navigation, but it will not help us with respect to the territorial threats, whatever we are facing because of the China. Moving further, what is this Quad grouping? It is India, US, Australia, Japan. It's a group of 4 countries that is called as Quad. So yesterday we've already seen in detail about this particular thing. So wherein the General Rawat has been opining that freedom of navigation and operations could be ensured and furthered with this quad groups, especially in Indian Ocean region and the surrounding oceans, including the Indo-Pacific regions. So what are we trying to tell here? So we are showing an inclination to join the quad military patrols. But however, India had altogether a different stand before. Even though we went for a joint military exercises or joint patrols, we were focusing only on the Indian Ocean region. Now, with the serious statement, we are ensuring that we are crossing the Indian Ocean region and somewhere showing the inclination to go across the Indo-Pacific also. But don't you think it's against the India's earlier stand? We can see one more example here. So wherein from long time that Australia is asking for engagement in India's annual Malabar exercise, where US and Japan is already participating. So India, US and Japan are already having Malabar exercise. So Australia from almost 2 years has been asking for this participation in this particular exercise. But India is not like now with the statement of serious, it's like conducting the joint military exercises, moving further to the joint operations may require some time from now. But does it imply change of strategy of India? We have to rethink onto it. So moving further, with so many tensions that is happening with between India and China with respect to the line of actual control and its refusal to implement the border agreements, now India needs to have some kind of new strategies to deal with the Beijing. As said by external affairs minister or a defense minister, even though talks are very, very important, but at the same time, so as an outcome of these tensions, we are getting more and more aligned or with the global powers. So, and Quad is such an indication of it. So, another indication is government is also going for a ministerial level meeting of the Quad in the next month, when the India and US also is going for a 2+2 meeting. Moving further, so we need to have a further clarity with respect to the expression of serious and the external affairs minister, because Jaishankar always says that we would not be part of any alliance system, and that will run to the counter to the idea of whatever CDS has suggested. So one thing what we have to remember in this article is, irrespective of the things, India is the only country among the Quad members which shares a land boundary with the China. So militarization of the Quad will in no way help India for elevating its territorial threats from the China. Let's move on to the next article. It's about the appropriate strategy. What is this appropriate strategy? As of now, as you are well aware, the government of India is blocking hundreds of Chinese mobile apps. So, is the approach? Is it a right strategy? Instead, in this article, they are trying to suggest a better approach for the technical regulation rather than going for blocking of an app. So now we are already well aware that Indian government has been blocked more than 200 Chinese apps, and very recently 118 apps have been blocked, and among them the most famous PUBG app has also been banned. So what are we trying to tell here? Why is this Indian government blocking them? So government is using this particular reasons or the grounds for blocking a particular app. That is, these apps are affecting our sovereignty, integrity, defense of India, security of the state and the public orders. These are the grounds stated by Indian government for blocking those apps. Going further, the main reason why the government is blocking is because these Chinese apps are stealing and superstitiously transmitting whatever user data that is available to an unauthorized location, okay, outside India that is being there. It's something like violating the data privacy of the individuals who are using these apps. So this act of the government is as per the 69A of the Information Technology Act. So we cannot argue against the issue of the national security. But however, do you think the due process of law has been followed over here? What am I trying to say over here? When the data is being misused, then in such a case, the first thing what they have to ensure is these apps should be compliant with the laws of the land. So when they are against the law of the land, then we have to have a legal suit. Then in the last case, we have to resort for the blocking of apps. So government of the day has not considered other alternatives. Instead has readily blocked the apps. However, with this, the government is trying to remove the access for the Indian market, and this is trying, and at the same time trying to use this as a counter in the geopolitical fight. But do you think India could be successful when China is a global technological supply chain? India also wants to be a global leader of technology. We also want India's industry to thrive on the global networks and rules. In such a scenario, so when we are going for blocking of this Chinese app without following a due process, then it may warrant the same for India also. So, India needs a better regulation of technology. So, first of all, we need to focus upon the data protection law, which is a dire need in this current generation. So, with this, we can have a better approach of handling all these apps. Let's move on to the next article. Kaziranga said to be expanded by 3,053 hectares. So here, where is this Kaziranga National Park? It is located in the Assam region. So what you have to remember here is Kaziranga is a national park. Kaziranga is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which you have to remember. Many a times in UPSC they ask question with respect to this national park, so you have to remember this. Then moving further, it is an important bird area also, and it is very popular for one-horned rhinoceros and also a tiger reserve. So this adds to the crown of Kaziranga. So Kaziranga has been expanded very recently. It's because we want to have a better wildlife conservation over here and to reduce the human animal conflict over this particular region. And Kaziranga is also connected to Orang and the Nameri National Parks. See, this they can ask you in the exam, so please try to remember this and highlight this particular thing. And they all of them are in the Brahmaputra River Valley. Moving further, what are the hills that is located in this particular national park? It is Karbi and Long. If you could see UPSC previous year question papers, so they've asked like this particular national park, what are the rivers which is passing through this national park, or what are the hill areas that is located. Once I'd asked them match the following also. So try to remember such things. Then it is a house to rhinoceros, tiger, deer and other animals. Moving further to the next article, UN experts voice concerns over Hong Kong security law. See guys, like from last 5 to 6 months, this Hong Kong security law is in news. So it can be a probable question for your mains examination also. So what you can do is just go through Hong Kong, the relation between China and Hong Kong, that is one nation and the two system, and what are the recent laws, what are the provisions, and where exactly the criticism is happening. So I would request you to make a background work so that you can understand the recent developments. And many a times in our videos also, we have already presented a complete picture of the Hong Kong crisis. Try to watch that video. Moving further, in this particular article, what are we trying to tell? We have already read about UN special rapporteurs. Yesterday also we read about them. So they are the special human rights experts. So they will be deployed by United Nations Human Rights Council to study particular themes or a particular countries wherever there is human rights violations. So now this particular human rights special rapporteurs have written an open letter to the Chinese government that whatever the international security law that is being passed, it is infringing on the certain fundamental rights of the Hong Kong citizens, and it can be used to prosecute the political activist in the Hong Kong region. So this kind of bill can be violation of an international covenant that is being signed by China, that is International Covenant on Civil and the Political Rights. So China has agreed that they will uphold this particular international convention in Hong Kong. So going or passing of this security law amounts to violation of this particular law. Thereby, they are also trying to curtail some of the fundamental rights of the citizens related to freedom of speech and expression, and particularly the peaceful assembly. Let's move on to the next article. RBI alters priority sector norms to help startups and the farmers to avail the loans. So why is this article very important for us? As you are all well aware that because the economy has slowed down, now we are trying to revive the growth of the economy. So we are trying to give more funds to the informal sector, especially to the startups and the farmers, so that we can revive the economy as well as we can help these informal sectors to build back the economy in a much better way. So now we'll also try to understand, first of all, what is this priority sectors? So priority sectors are those sectors as per the government which forms the basics for building of the economy. So what are the such priority sectors identified by RBI? One is agriculture, MSME, export credit, education, housing, social infrastructure, renewable energy, and there is other section of others also. So but what I'm trying to tell you is in the prelims context, what are the various categories of priority sector lending is very important. Try to remember this. So now in this current article, so government has increased the weightage to the low credit flow areas, so especially for the startups, so that you can see over here, which has been highlighted here. And government has also doubled almost loan limits for the renewable energy sector also. See, all these things, the short term developments, whatever it is happening, it's not important for your exam context, but what you have to remember out of this is when they ask you a question like how government is trying to revive the economy or revive the slowdown, then in such a case you can also mention this particular part in the mains answer writing. But remember this, they will not ask explicitly the short term variations or short term developments that has happened. So here in the context of prelims, just remember what are the categories involved in priority sectors, and in the context of the mains, the measures taken by RBI to revive the economy. There you just have to remember about this. Let's move on to the next article. Rajnath Singh meets Chinese counterpart Wei in Moscow. See, since we know on the sidelines of SCO Defense Ministers Conference, that is Shanghai Cooperation Organization Defense Ministers meeting, so we have our leader to meet the Chinese counterpart. At the same time, what you have to remember over here is these points. So these points are very important, and try sometimes when these kind of points comes in the newspaper, try to write it down, because this can be helpful in writing a conclusion in your international relations part. Despite Chinese aggression over the Indian border issues and frequent violation of line of actual control, so India is ready to interact with China and to resolve the issues to the talks. But our aim is to ensure a peaceful, stable, secure region of SCO member, which is home to 40% of the global population, and we want to have a climate of trust. So we need to have a trust, cooperation, and non-aggression, and we should respect the international rules, and we shall also have sensitivity towards each other's interests, and whenever there is any kind of differences, we shall go for a peaceful resolution. So this is what is a cardinal feature of international relations in India. So try to remember these kind of points. It will really help you in writing the international relations mains answer writing. So other part of the article is not much important for you from the examination context, but what you have to remember is what is this SEO is very important. SEO was set up in 2001, and the main objective is to resolve the border dispute, fight terrorism, bolster regional security, and counter American influence in Central Asian region. So moving further, who are the member countries of SEO? So you can see over here, the member countries are China, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, India, and Pakistan. So many a times, the members of SEO have been asked in UPSC prelims examination. So just try to focus on this part. So Turkmenistan is not part of it. Sometimes it is asked to confuse the aspirants. Then, what is the role of SEO is also important for us. So, what exactly is the role played by SEO? So, it is seen as a counterbalance to NATO. So, whatever is the role of NATO, we are trying to see that SEO will act as to counterbalance the role of NATO. Then, security cooperation among the members. It deals with the terrorism, particularly international terrorism like ISIS. Moving further, economic cooperation among the region. Then, India's push to connectivity to Chabahar port, then One Belt, One Road initiative of China, and international North-South transport corridor connecting the subcontinent with Central Asian countries. So this is how SEO is important. But however, we have a recent issues because India-China border aggression and objections over One Belt, One Road initiative. Then traditionally, hostility is there between India and Pakistan, and there is a hostility or the standoff between Russia and China, which is happening because of the Ukraine region. So because of all these reasons, SEO is very important organization in news. So try to remember its member countries. These are some important articles for the today. All the best for your preparation. And from today, we will be starting UPSC Prelims Marathon series in our Civils Prep YouTube channel. So with this, we will be helping you to cover the most important aspects that will be asked in your examination. Thank you.